Now, let's get into how to protest safely. Morgan, go ahead and kick it off.
Sure. First, I want to say welcome to everyone, whether you're new or you've been here before. This is one of my favorite topics. We've done it a couple of times already, but it really gets to the grassroots of what we do. We're going to be talking about how to prepare for a protest, and it can be anything from something simple like an overpass or a sidewalk protest up to a big No Kings event. A lot of these rules work the same way. Um, so here are some tips for getting yourself ready. Before you go, research any demonstration you're going to. Make sure that the people who are putting on the protest have values that match up with yours, and that you're not going to be at a place where you're harming somebody unexpectedly. Do the leaders prioritize nonviolence and have experience with de escalation strategies? These are good questions to ask. Do you feel uncomfortable supporting their demands? And answering key questions like these can prevent you from being part of a disorganized, problematic, or unsafe event. We'll talk about that a little more, but these are kind of before you go types of things. Also, you're going to want to dress for the expected weather. So, a lot of times they recommend layers that you can easily remove: hat, face mask, sunglasses. They usually recommend covering tattoos and unusual hair if you're concerned about privacy, things that are identifiable if somebody were looking for you. Um, they recommend fully charging your cell phone and bringing a battery extender if possible. We'll talk about cell phones a little more later on. They're Whether you should have one or not is going to be up to you. Let at least one emergency contact know your plan and make arrangements to keep them posted on your status during and after the event. Let them know where you'll be, how you'll get there, where you intend to go in an emergency, and what time you intend to get back. I have a code with my partner that I have a lawyer that I know if I get arrested is I'm going to call. So if I say, you know, call the lawyer's name, she instantly knows that means I've been arrested and she should call the lawyer and try and find me and bail me out. So something quick like that where you've got it arranged ahead of time, it is a good idea to at least know of a lawyer who would represent a protester if you get arrested, and have that as something you prepare ahead of time. Um, and go from there. I do want to make it clear that at least for the No Kings protests that we've been organizing and most of the ones around the country, the risk is very low, both of violence, getting arrested, a lot of the negative things that people associate with protests. Um, in what we're doing, those risks are relatively low, but it's always important to be situationally aware of what's going on around you. But regardless of the anticipated situation at your protest, have a protest buddy. It's always a good idea to have a buddy who can alert others if you're harmed or arrested, help record any violations of your First Amendment rights. And this is a person to stay with during the protest. And if separated, we'll have a plan to meet up to make sure that everybody is safe. These are the things you may want to bring or wear with you. Any needed supplies, including water and cash. A lot of vendors, for example, they're going to be food trucks or people with merchandise, may only be able to accept cash because there may not be a network connection for them to have credit cards available. Um, some people recommend leaving things like your driver's license. We'll talk about that a little bit later. They recommend bringing several days worth of medication in case you're arrested. Do not plan on the medical system in jail to take care of you or even have exactly the right medications and the right doses that you need. So if that's something that you rely on and can't be without for a couple of days, bring a couple of days worth with you. Take supplies to protect yourself. Safely remove chemical irritants like a face covering, milk of magnesia, and towelettes. This is in case there's pepper spray or tear gas. A bandana soaked in vinegar in a Ziploc bag or Tupperware. If you're tear gas, put the bandana over your nose and mouth, and that'll help you breathe. It's also good to have protective eye covering, like safety glasses or ski goggles, again, to keep anything getting into your eyes. It's better to anticipate these things and not need them than have something go wrong and not have them. Um, you may want a change of clothes in case you get covered in tear gas or pepper spray. A comfortable backpack or fanny pack to carry all of these things in. Snacks and water. It may be several hours that you're outside in the heat and there may not be food available. So bring a little something with you, especially if you're diabetic or get hypoglycemic if you don't eat for a while. Cough drops are a good idea in case your throat gets sore after chanting for hours and hours and hours. Rain ponchos are a good idea. We're not predicting rain here, but you never know. Hand sanitizer, sun protection. If you're concerned about tear gas, a hat and a lightweight long sleeve t-shirt are probably better than sunscreen because oil-based products can prolong the effects of tear gas. But if you can't, um, you're likely to be out for several hours. Be aware of the sun. If you want to carry a protest sign, use poster board or foam core board and tape a paint stir stick, which you can get for free from most hardware stores for the handle. If you use something like a 2x4, it can be seen as a weapon and you can get arrested, especially if you are using it as a weapon. So just keep that in mind when you're making your signs that anything that can harm someone can potentially get you into trouble. All right, so here we're going to talk about your ID. Without it, you could wind up in jail longer if you're arrested. Um, a lot of these depend on state laws, but in general, I think it's even federal that if law enforcement asks for your ID, you don't need to produce it unless you're being detained. And the easiest way to find out is just to ask and say, am I being detained? And if they say yes, you may be required to produce your ID. In the same way that if you get pulled over driving, you may be required to produce your driver's license. And if you don't have it, there may be consequences depending on the state law. Tiffany, what's next?
All right, here's what not to bring. Anything illegal or that can be construed as a weapon, like Morgan just mentioned. Don't bring a 2x4. I don't recommend contact lenses, which can trap irritants like tear gas. And don't bring any valuable items. A lot of people leave their wallets behind. Maybe if you want to bring one credit card and a little bit of cash with you in a pocket, that's probably the best way to go. Next, know your environment. Have an offline map of the venue and surrounding areas available because cell service may be limited in some cases. Sean, can you throw that map in the chat again, please? So if you're coming to Denver, go ahead and print this map out and bring it with you. And remember to come see us by the HQ tent. Plan multiple routes into and out of the protest area. Establish a check-in system with other protesters so they know you're safe. Have a rendezvous point away from the protest area. Always stay aware and secure. Maintain 360 degrees situational awareness. Know what is going on all around you at all times. Be alert to anything that seems suspicious, such as a person's behavior, unclaimed packages, unusual activity, or vehicles. Sean, can you put that pulse graphic in the chat that has the phone number to report any of these things? You can call the pulse phone line. And if you see any ICE activity, you can call that second phone number on there for the Colorado Rapid Response Network. If you see something suspicious, you can also find a safety marshal and let them know. Most safety marshals are going to be wearing a yellow vest. Sometimes it'll be a different colored vest. You want to observe, orient, decide, and act. That's the OODA loop. It's a useful framework to stay calm and make decisions during high stress situations. Um, uh, the first O stands for observe. Identify the source of danger and your surroundings. The second O is for orient. Determine where you are and where you need to go. The D is for decide. Choose a course of action that minimizes risk. And the A is for act. Implement your decision and stay aware of changes in the environment. Morgan?
So I want to address something that's been going around social media for a little bit, mostly in the earlier protests. And a lot of what they recommend is that if somebody is a bad actor, starting confrontations with the police, vandalizing property, participating in violence, or anything else that is not desirable and expected, that everybody should sit down. We strenuously disagree with doing this. It can put you at risk, and there are better ways to isolate somebody like that. So that to make sure that the rest of the uh, crowd and event is peaceful, everybody should move away from that person. Let the safety marshals and police come and deal with it at that point. But if you are up and moving, you're not likely to be caught sitting on the ground if something were to happen. It gives you more ability to respond and move. Just in case you need to move quickly. Another thing is to know your rights as a protester. So there's a lot of know your rights cards and trainings and things like that going along around. It's particularly important at a protest because sometimes your rights may be a little different. Um, so public places are where your rights are strongest. So things like streets, sidewalks, parks, um, you have the right to speak out on other public property, such as in front of the state capitol, as long as you're not blocking entry to the building and not blocking traffic on the streets, you're pretty much free to do things. A lot of people will not have a permitted march, but will march along the sidewalks. As long as you're moving, that's okay. Like I said, if you're blocking traffic or if you're staying in the same place, you can be arrested for vagrancy depending on the local laws. So just keep those things in mind so that you are protesting safely and within your rights. Counter protesters also have free speech. So police are permitted to keep the two groups separated, but they typically allow them to be within visual or auditory distance. So if you're approached by a counter protester, you have two options. You can walk away or you can de escalate the situation. I usually recommend leaving counter protesters alone and let them do what they're going to do. If the protest wants to have a plan to deal with counter protesters, that's fine. But otherwise, generally, you're better off leaving it to safety marshals or police um, because you don't want to get yourself into a confrontation with somebody. So here are some of the de-escalation tips. Stay calm and keep your voice steady. Avoid raising your voice or matching someone's intensity. Avoid provocative behavior. Keep your passive body language. If necessary, walk away and remove yourself from the situation. If you feel unsafe or unsure, simply leave. And then find a safety marshal. Again, they'll be wearing bright yellow or orange vests and usually have a lanyard. And it's their job to go and de escalate those situations. So here are some trainings that are coming up for participant de escalation, host de escalation, and No King safety marshal training. So feel free to check those out if you're interested. And we'll go back to Tiffany.
All right. So Morgan touched on your rights, but here's a complete Know Your Rights training from the ACLU. Let me drop that in the chat. And here are the basics. When you're lawfully present in public space, such as streets, sidewalks, and parks, the First Amendment protects your right to take photos and videos of law enforcement officers performing their duties in public. This applies to ICE agents, police, FBI, National Guard, and any other government officials. If you're not under arrest, a law enforcement officer needs a warrant to confiscate your phone or device or to view its contents without your consent. If you are arrested, an officer may take your phone but still needs a warrant to search its contents. The government may never delete your photographs or videos under any circumstances. While the right to document and record law enforcement and federal agents is protected by the Constitution, we are all too aware that our constitutionally protected rights have been disregarded and violated in the past. Some officers retaliate by making threats, spraying chemical irritants, and arresting people who are recording them. They may order you to move a reasonable distance away from them to avoid obstructing their work. Even if you think a command is unlawful, it's safest to follow the order, document the interaction, and challenge it later. So continue recording on your phone and loudly say, "I'm backing up, officer," as you document that you are backing up from them. You can ask for officers' names and badge numbers, as well as who to call if there are follow-up questions. If possible, write these down along with any other relevant observations. If you don't have a pen, make a note in your phone. Make the note in your phone as you walk away, not where they may grab your phone while it's unlocked. Some state laws generally prohibit audio recording people without their consent, while the First Amendment protects your right to record law enforcement officials engaged in their duties in public and helps you defend against unjustified retaliation or arrest. The exercise of this right carries some risks. If you believe your rights have been violated, you should write down everything you remember, including the officer's badge and patrol car numbers and the agency they work for. Get contact information for witnesses and ask for any documentation or recordings they might have. Take photographs of any injuries. Once you have all of this, you can file a written complaint with the agency's Internal Affairs Division or Civilian Complaint Board. You can also reach out to your local ACLU affiliate. And here's what to do if you're stopped by the police or ICE. Stay calm, make sure to keep your hands visible. Ask if you're free to leave, like Morgan said earlier. If the officer says yes, calmly walk away. You never have to consent to a search of yourself or your belongings. If you do explicitly consent, it can affect you later in court. Police officers may not confiscate or demand to view your photographs or video without a warrant. And you have the right to make a local phone call. And if you're calling your lawyer, the police are not allowed to listen. If you are arrested, clearly state your refusal to speak to the police immediately and immediately request an attorney. If you're under 18 years old, ask for your parents to be contacted immediately. Know beforehand who you will call and have their phone number written on your arm in permanent marker because you will likely not have access to your phone. Now, that could be an attorney, a law firm, or a friend who will be able to contact an attorney for you. Do not make any statements other than giving your name and address. You don't need to permit a march in the streets or on sidewalks. I think Morgan mentioned that earlier, as long as you're not obstructing car or pedestrian traffic. If the police order the protest to disperse, they must provide a reasonable opportunity to comply, including sufficient time and a clear, unobstructed exit path. That's wishful thinking in some cases, but that is the law. Shutting down a protest through a dispersal order must be law enforcement's last resort. Police cannot break up a gathering unless there is a clear and present danger of riot, disorder, interference with traffic, or another immediate threat to public safety. Individuals must receive clear and detailed notice of a dispersal order, including the amount of time they have to disperse, the consequences of failing to disperse, and a clear exit route before they can be arrested or charged with a crime. There's more information available on the ACLU's website and in their trainings here. And Morgan, it's up to you now.
All right. Here are some tips to protect your privacy before, during, and after a protest. This information comes from the ACLU in DC, so I'm putting a link in the chat where you can get more information. First thing you want to do is disable face and fingerprint and any other biometric recognition on your phone, or consider bringing a cheap burner phone that you wouldn't mind losing if the police confiscate it. They can compel you to open your phone using biometrics, whether it's your face or your fingerprint. They
Mhm.
can't if you're using a PIN. So by disabling all of the biometrics, they can't get into your phone without your permission and without a warrant. Whether you bring your phone or you bring a burner phone is up to you. If your phone, well, we'll get into that a little more. But there is an argument either way, to bring your own phone with your information, and
Mhm.
prepare it properly, or to bring a burner phone that really has nothing on it except the one or two pieces of information that you're going to need. Because that way, if something happens and the police take that phone, you're not really out much. So, um, to protect your phone, you're going to want to put it on airplane mode unless absolutely
Mhm.
necessary. Airplane mode, when you're not communicating, reduces the number of signals and device transmits while you're protesting and limits your location from being
Mhm.
tracked. So it's harder for people to find out exactly who you are. And that protects you both while you're at the protest and if somebody is trying to follow you afterwards. So it's as well to turn off your location services, because if you don't turn off the location services, if you have a Wi-Fi connection, Google and other companies can still find you by having your location turned on, even if airplane mode is turned on as well. If you're going to message, use an app like Signal that is got what's called end-to-end encryption. What that means is all of the communication from when it leaves your device to when it's received is encrypted. And if it gets intercepted, nobody will be able to read it. The apps that aren't encrypted, somebody may be able to intercept and read. So it's important to make sure that you know the communication that you're using is safe and protected. Like I said, wear face mask and sunglasses. This makes it more difficult for police to identify you using facial recognition technology. We've seen police drones above the crowds at previous protests in Denver, and as facial recognition cameras proliferate around the country, having this on you is going to make it harder for them to identify you. Consider leaving your car at home. Police use automated license plate readers to track protesters. If you can, ride a bicycle, take a bus or light rail, or walk to the protest to avoid having your license plate tracked. We know because of the proximity to light rail and buses in Denver, a lot of times those will be shut down during the protest. But once the protest disperses shortly after, they'll start running again. Be mindful of posting videos and photos of other protesters. If you post videos and photos online where protesters' faces, tattoos, or unique clothing are identifiable, police may track them down, arrest them, or harass those protesters. Blur faces and identifiers before posting anything online. If you're live streaming, avoid capturing people's faces. Take photos and video without unlocking your phone. Either your phone automatically lets you take a picture, even if it's locked, or there will be a button on your screen that you can press. Every phone has it. You may need to figure out how your particular phone does it, but it's better than opening your phone. Remove metadata from your photos. Metadata is things like time, location, and other things that the computer uses to identify the photo. And if you just take that photo and post it online, that metadata goes along with it. So if you want to post photos, we recommend that you take the photos on your phone, go to your computer and take a screenshot of it, and then post the screenshot. That way, the metadata will be scrubbed and it won't be directly connected to the protest.
Mhm.
Finally, we recommend backing up your data on your phone, particularly if you're bringing your own phone, because that way, if the your phone gets taken away by police, your data is backed up and you can get another phone and configure it with everything that you've gotten before. And I'm going to finish up with a few things to be situationally aware of. You know, generally, uh, you'll know when things are starting to go bad. The crowd will start to get agitated. They will start moving, yelling things that aren't planned, chance, and moving in ways that aren't expected in places uh, you wouldn't expect them to go, like trying to get onto a highway.
Mhm.
A lot of times, as it starts to get dark, is when bad things start to happen. I know it's a cliche to say, don't be out after dark to your kids, but when it comes to protests, it really is a thing that the protests during the day and the light are very different than the things that happen at night. And then just generally, look for people who are acting out of the normal, people who are particularly upset, who are, swinging their arms or running around frantically, and just like Tiffany said earlier, be situationally aware of what's going on, because once things start to go bad, there are usually warning signs, but it can happen very, very quickly. So just keep that in mind. And with that, do we have any questions?
I actually wanted to add a little bit more.
Okay.
You can also support the cause from home. Everyone has a role to play. If you're unable to be out in the streets yourself, you can donate supplies like hand sanitizer and bottles of water directly to organizers or ask them what they need. Or consider making a financial contribution to local bail funds or organizations like the ACLU that are working to protect our First Amendment rights. The Community Justice Exchange, the link I just put in the chat, has a directory of local bail funds organized by state. In Colorado, those are the Pretrial Bail Freedom Fund and the Immigration Bond Freedom Fund. You can also join your local mutual aid network to help build a community based support system. That's also something we'll talk about more next week. And you also want to keep up the momentum. So take your activism to the next level. Through protesting, you'll learn a lot about community organizing, media outreach, and policy advocacy, which can help you become a more effective champion. As former AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power activist and Brian Zabsik explained it, because our positions were generally unpopular, we learned how to be resilient. Because we sometimes won, we learned how to be occasionally optimistic. And because we couldn't win without support from other groups, we learned how to form coalitions. And as always, contact your elected officials. It's critical to make sure that our representatives in office continue to hear from us by phone or email. Tell them why these protests are so significant and what it means to have millions of people in the streets on a single day. Of course, sign petitions that address them directly. You can also write letters to the editor to share your message with the wider community. And most importantly, keep the long view. Our democracy depends on it. So with that, I will open it up to questions. Did we have any in the chat, Sean?
Tiffany, I wanted to jump in with one more thing. These
Sure.
protests are supposed to be fun. Any responsible organizer is going to look out for the attendees. So if it's an event that people expect to get arrested at, they'll have a bail fund, they'll have lawyers, they'll have people ready. Most of these are going to be peaceful, they should be fun, this should be energizing, it shouldn't be something that's scary. And if the organizers are doing their job, you shouldn't have much to worry about as long as you're maintaining your situational awareness. But effort should be made to make them peaceable, safe, and fun for everybody. All right. Thank you for being patient, Aaron. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you guys. So I had a couple things, especially about sitting down at a protest if shit hits the fan. Do not do that. Or I've done security for a long time at giant events. This is not the right thing to do. Basically, what you want to do is follow the school shooting scenario, which is run, hide, fight. I would turn it to fight, run, hide. Um, Sitting down is going to get you run over. A lot of the injuries that happen in mass casualty events are stampedes. This is not a good idea. Um, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the differentiation with some of these different trainings about what to wear, what to do. Some people say you shouldn't wear bright clothing, you should wear masks. Other people say you need to wear a orange vest or a yellow vest. Okay, this is crazy. They know who we are. There's no way to hide your phone. We're here. Don't be afraid, right? Like, I'm on the television all the time. There's no way for me to hide. There's new things that are coming out where they're going to try to charge people with felonies for wearing masks in Oklahoma at protests if they designate it a riot. If you get into the street, they designate it that you are obstructing felony. So there's a lot of different things going on everywhere. If you come to a protest, you're not safe, right? Like walking across the road, you can get hit by a car. Don't be afraid. Show up. Bring your spirit. Don't be negative. Bring people with you. I love you guys. Thank you so much for your time.
Good point.
Debbie, to answer your question, Aaron is someone who he's an organizer in Oklahoma, right? Oklahoma, Aaron?
Yes, ma'am. Tulsa,
Okay.
Oklahoma.
All right.
I guess that brings up the point of the police, because the police in red states and the police in blue states may treat you very differently. And I would generally say, particularly in a red state, but in a blue state too, normally the protest will have a safety marshal or somebody that is designated to be the liaison with the police. So it is not your responsibility to manage the police, talk to them, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And particularly in a red state, they're more likely going to be hostile to you. And the more you interact with them, the more opportunity there is for something to go wrong. And that can be anything from getting arrested to getting beaten. So my advice would be to just leave the police alone and let them do what they're going to do, and leave the communicating with them to the organizers and the safety marshals. Yes,
Oh,
that. Go ahead.
one other thing I wanted to mention was make sure to connect with other organizations that have tables at your event. That's one of the most important things you can do at a protest, is to make sure that that energy is carried forward after the event.
I haven't talked to other activists to know if the tabling is a thing that happens outside of Denver, because
I
that
know
was
it
something
does
that
in
we
Fort
started.
Collins.
Okay. So if there are tables at your event, check out the other groups, find out what they're doing, see if there's a place that you can plug in and get involved. And that may even be starting to help protest or help organize the next protest. But it's a good place to connect with groups and people that you might be interested in that you might not get to see otherwise.
And if you want to connect with organizers, look for somebody near the stage that looks like they know what they're doing, and try to grab them at a moment that they don't look so busy.
Yeah, there aren't many of those until it's over, but yeah, don't try and catch them when they're not in the middle of doing something else. Um, and we've talked a little bit about uh, if you're in a red state or if you're in a red county and there aren't a whole lot of other progressive, you know, people in your area, don't be afraid to start something. You can do it by yourself. Two people, three people, five people, 10 people can be enough to make a difference. And that can be something as simple as standing on the sidewalks with signs. It can be overpress protests. It can be your own small protest in the park. However you want to do it is fine, but don't think that just because you don't live in a big city in a blue state that you can't do something. There are thousands of these events going on across the country, and they're going on in all areas of the country, red or blue. Don't feel like you can't go and be involved just because you're in whatever place that may or may not have as big a following. If there aren't 10,000 people or 20,000 people or 50,000 people, the active resistance is the part that's important. So feel free to get out there and do something. And it may not look like what everybody else does, but that's even better. Make it personal to you and what you want to see done and the message that's important to you.
There was one comment for you, Morgan.
Yeah.
What to do if someone in our group is being unruly or loud?
To be honest, I would say in a protest of 10,000 people, 40,000 people, that's not your responsibility. That's what the safety marshals are for, whether it's somebody on our side or somebody on their side or a police officer. Their job is to keep safety and the police. And if somebody gets unruly enough, they will get themselves arrested. Um, it's best to walk away and move to something that you want to do and don't let it ruin your experience. That would be my advice if you see somebody, even on our side, that is getting unruly. Generally, for lack of a better term, it is a self solving problem. Either the safety marshals will take care of it, they will get themselves arrested, or they will burn themselves out and quiet down on their own. So, and
One thing we've found helpful is to interview the people that want to be heard. that are causing
Mhm.
problems. They usually just want to be heard. So if you can get somebody to get a camera and take them to the side, it usually shuts them up or it keeps them talking away from the crowd.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, so at the sign making party this past Sunday for No Kings, a discussion happened, and I'm just wondering if you have any recommendations or thoughts on it. And it has to do with during a march. Um, I don't even know if you would say bad actors, but the march splintering off. And
Mhm.
so people in the march, because we don't necessarily know where a march is going beforehand, right? And you don't get a map necessarily. So how do you not get caught up in a splintered off part of the march? And instead stay with what the actual rally is about.
That is a really
I
good.
would
Go ahead.
I would say look for the safety marshals. Follow the people in the yellow or orange vests. That's going to be your best bet.
And, that has been a problem where people who are interested in agitating trouble, that want to have a confrontation with the police, have taken groups of people off on marches, whether it's splintering off the main march by making a different turn, or after the event is done, like I said, as it starts getting later into the night, starting another march with the intent of causing problems. Again, if you're going on a march to confront the police, I think it's the responsibility of the organizers to make sure that the people going with you know it. Not everybody agrees with that opinion, so it's important to keep that in mind. So, like at our marches, we have flag bearers who have big, giant, like the fans you see outside of businesses, that are going with the main march. And that way you can know where they're going. Another good key is go where most of the people are going. And it helps to know the map route ahead of time. There are a lot of organizations, for security reasons, won't publish the map ahead of time, but usually day of there will be some indication of what the march is going to look like. And if you see a small group of people going off down a side street, that's a pretty good indication that they're not the main group and they're going to do something different. Um, if it's, I'm trying to think what other clues you can have to that. Like Tiffany said, a lot of times if they're going to be breaking off, the safety marshals may not be going with them, or safety marshals that do go with them would know ahead of time, and there would be a much smaller number of them. Most of them would be going uh, with the main march anyway, because they're still going to have to protect all of those people. But there is more to it than that as well, because we're anticipating a almost 3 mile long march, and a lot of times not everybody can keep up with something like that, and the marches can get splintered, and stragglers can get left behind. The front can move too fast and get ahead of everybody. All of those things are possible. So, if you don't have a map ahead of time, like if they didn't give you a map or didn't post a map, at least know the beginning point and the end point. A lot of the protests here wind up going to and from the Capitol kind of in a big circle. But if it's a linear march, know the origin and the end point. And if you get separated, go to the end point on your own, even if you have to get a cab or call an Uber. That way, you'll at least not wind up in a situation that you're going to get yourself into trouble. One of the other things is, I hate to say this, um, some of the people most notorious for causing problems are people in black bloc. I'm not going to get into the details about it, But if you see a large people dressed all in black, potentially carrying weapons, moving off in a separate direction, that should be something to be suspicious of. Be careful of that. And Strawn, as far as the question, why would an event in Erie get canceled? I don't exactly know, but to be honest with you, the two reasons I would cancel an event that I was planning are one, the risk of danger was too high. If there was a reasonable reason to think that there might be a bomb or an attack from counter protesters or something that would make the risk too high. But more likely, I would cancel it because not enough people are going to show up. It's not worth putting the time and effort into planning something like this if 10 people are going to show up.
We
And
figured out, someone figured out the Erie event is actually still up on Mobilize, so I think it was a mistake that the cancellation got sent out. Like you can still sign up for it, so it didn't get canceled entirely. But yeah, you have a point if someone didn't want to put the effort in, but for smaller protests, they definitely don't take as much time and effort as ours do. Bryant, to answer your question, we do not anticipate Minnesota level resistance in Denver. Just like it was last time, it was peaceful. That's what we are anticipating this time. We just like to have people be prepared for these situations in case things go south.
and like I said, when I was protesting in St. Louis, it was very different than protesting in Denver. And a lot of that comes down to the police and how they respond and the activists that are organizing. And so we're trying to get people prepared for everything. Like Tiffany said, everything we've had in Denver not only has been peaceful, the organizers have required things to be peaceful before joining the coalition that puts it on. And the intent has always been an energizing, joyful exercise of our rights to say we don't want a king and make that known loud and clearly, far and wide. But as far as I know, there's still no reason to believe that the main protest in Denver, I believe it ends at 5 o'clock, is going to
Mhm.
be peaceful. Back to Jenny's point, if the protest is supposed to end at 5 o'clock and it's 5:30 or 6 o'clock and you see another march going off, that can be an indication that it's not part of the original protest. Let me put it that way.
And I just dropped the link in the chat to volunteer for Denver No Kings. We can definitely still use more volunteers if you're up for it. There's all sorts of different jobs and tasks on there that you can sign up for.
And Terry, let me clarify your comment. You're right. 10 people is not too small. 5 people is not too small. 2 people is not too small. If that's what you're planning, if you're planning 1,000 people, if you're planning 10,000 people, and there are only going to be 10 people showing up, that can almost be embarrassing. And that would be the reason to cancel it at that point. Not because that number by itself has anything wrong with it, it's almost relative to what you're expecting. And if you're not going to get the turnout that you expect, and this is true of any event, even if you're having a town hall, a debate, anything like that, even a sign making party like we had last weekend, um, a lot of times, if you're only going to get 1 or 2 or 3 people to something you're expecting 10, 25, 50 at, it's better to cancel it ahead of time with enough notice than try and put something on and go to all of that trouble and not have anybody show up and make it look like you can't get anybody to come out to your event.
Morgan, I had 60 people sign up for an event and 3,000 people showed up.
That's a
Yeah.
good problem to have.
Well, that's happening a lot. There's a lot of people that don't sign up online. For example, the last Snow Kings in Denver, only 5,000 people showed up or signed up online, and we had between 46 to 50,000 people there. So a lot of people are getting the word through different means. We particularly like digital billboards. Yeah, so I agree with you, Aaron, just because you don't think a lot of people are coming, you don't necessarily need to cancel it. Mm. What
So,
else
Aaron,
do you
I'm
guys
Have
got?
curious.
you have you guys had any threat assessments from the No Kings? They called me this morning about one in Oklahoma.
No, we haven't had any threats. Is that what you're asking, or
Yeah,
a
yeah,
threat
we have
assessment?
this guy that's a Second Amendment advocate, and I used to do security at like Oktoberfest and BOK Center in Tulsa. And these guys would show up all the time, open carrying and demanding to come into the premise. And we've dealt with them for a long time, but they've been threatening to come to the protests, and they've been sending out calls to all the organizers in Oklahoma. But I just want to reassure you, like, this happens all the time. Do not be afraid.
Thank you.
Aaron, I'm curious. What event did you expect to have 60 people and had 3,000 show up?
June 14th.
Okay. Do
Can
you
Thank you.
think
you
we have a previous meeting where we did how to prepare to protest as well on our YouTube channel already?
We do. So don't feel any huge rush. This one just had like a few updates. So if you can, that's great. If not, don't stress about it. But Sean is our amazing video editing and one of our social media volunteers, and Tian is our other social media volunteer. All right, I'm gonna play you an electro swing
Hold
mix.
on.
Oh, go ahead.
Tiffany, what are we doing next week?
Next week, Elle is doing their disaster preparedness presentation, which was really great last time. It covers not only preparing your own house, but it's kind of like what if you're in a disaster for one day, and then what if it's 3 days? What if it's a week? What if it's 3 weeks? And how you need to expand your network outward and start organizing with your community to handle things like that. So yeah, that is what's coming up next week. And right after I start this song, um, I will put the link to sign up in the chat. Mm.
Hey, sorry, Michelle asked if you can bring your dog.
Yes, you can
Generally, if it's
absolutely.
going to be a safe, peaceful protest, your dog will be fine. Kind of like bringing your kid, it is something that you would have to be responsible for. And if there is a stampede and something goes wrong, I wouldn't want your dog to get hurt. But if it is a nice, peaceful protest, there would be nothing wrong with having your dog there. And a lot of people bring them.
All right. Any other questions? Is the Save America Act going to pass? Probably not, but it is still worth calling your legislators, particularly senators, right now, and urging them to vote no on it.
And it's going to pass in the House because they have the majority. What we're hoping for is a filibuster in the Senate to prevent it from going forward. So as long as the Democrats are willing to do that, it's not going to pass. But if they cave, then it gets complicated.
Is any sign too provocative to carry? Any sign that is implying violence, I would recommend not carrying. That's about it.
Yep.
Tiffany, I moved our protest because people started bringing fuck Trump flags and bullhorns calling people pedophiles. So, absolutely, there is provocative signs.
Okay. Yeah, so keep in mind if it's a, family friendly protest, maybe think about what's on your sign, but I'll leave that up to you. We once discussed taking swear words out of the playlist that one of the organizers likes to play between bands or when no one's on the stage, and we got shot down immediately.
There are people who will complain about swear words and fuck Trump and things like that on the signs. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the organizer can't really police what sign you bring and tell you to bring it down because it's still a free speech issue. Personally, I like the provocative signs, and I think there is something to be said that a anti-authoritarian protest may not always be a kid-friendly event when it comes to the speech that's out there. But I think sometimes kids need to hear that so they know what's going on. But that's my opinion on it. So I don't necessarily have a problem with it.
I'm talking more about provocateurs that are trying to antagonize the public instead of bring people together.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's not welcome.
Yeah,
There's no
and
need for that.
we were advocating to take the swear words out on behalf of some smaller groups that asked for that. It was definitely not our personal preference. Yeah. All right. Any more questions before I play us out on a song? All right. Well, everybody have a wonderful evening.
Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next week if we don't see you on Saturday.
Suits pressed and we're reading the map. Texas tried to stack the deck, darling, what a wreck. Lines were drawn, but the House won't check. Every race, every county fine. Swing that vote like a valentine. Ballots dropped and the big band rang. Democracy in a Charleston clang. You can feel it in the bass line, feel it in your feet. 7 million voices and we own this beat. Hey, hey, no kings in our town. We're the brass, we're the spats, we're the underground sound. No kings, sugar filling up the streets. No kings, honey gonna shake these beats. I never felt my voice cut through. Now it's a riot of red, white, and blue. New York swung when Mamdani won. Another spark beneath the neon sun. From borough blocks to subway drums, the people said, here we come. Wake up call on every block. Wind up clocks, it's time to rock. So many waking eyes wide open. Old guard choking on words unspoken. From the courthouse steps to the city square. Justice rising in the jazz soul air. Hey, hey, no kings in our town. We're the brass, we're the spats, we're the underground sound. 7 million strong in the avenue. 7 million saying we are through with you. I never felt my voice ring true. Now it's louder than the lies ring true. Outdoor mass and a march in the rain. Doors thrown open, break the chain. Preachers, deacons at the gate. Court said, you will not isolate. Broadview walls couldn't hold that line. Melrose Park to the city skyline. Where faith and fury intertwine. You can't cage a heart that shines, baby! Late night laughs and the jokes still land. Back on air cause we made a stand. Spotify said not on our stream. Pulled those ice ads right off the scene. Palantir packing up their gear. Leaving Denver out of here. Turns out people talk back now. Turns out we remember how. Who's streets? Our streets. Who's vote? Our vote. No crown, no throne. This house I own. Hey, hey, no kings in our town. Lindy Hop while the walls fall down. From Texas maps to NYC. From every block to every sea. I never felt my voice matter this much. Now it's fire time. Hey, hey, no kings in our town. Lindy hop while the walls fall down. From Texas maps to NYC, from every block to every sea. I never felt my voice matter this much. Now it's fire, it's breath, it's a million touch rush. No kings bigger than before, with a rhythm kicking down the door. Democracy's a live wire sound, and we're the band on, won't back down.
All
Oh,
right. Have a great night, everyone.
thank you, Tiffany. I got to give a shout out to Sharon, who was just dancing. That was great.
I missed it. All right. We'll see you guys next week and have an amazing No Kings. Everybody be safe.